Thursday, September 28th, 2017. This is Seaside Chats with Kenneth Arthur, and this week we have a very special guest joining us to talk about the Seattle Seahawks and offensive line play, and which is the hottest topic in Seattle right now is just offensive line play. So who's better to talk about the offensive line than the greatest offensive lineman in NFL history, in my opinion, and definitely in the opinion of anyone in Seattle that's worth talking to about football. Walter Jones, Hall of Famer. Thank you so much for joining the show today.
Hey, thanks a lot, man. Good to be on.
Yeah. So first of all, I want to thank FanCom for having you on to join us and making this connect. Can you want to just so I don't want to forget or leave it behind. Can you tell people a little bit about what you're working with FanCom?
Yes, FanCom is giving me an opportunity to work with them and to give players and fans to connect. And FanCom is doing a great job of kind of controlling the trolls and the bullies on, a lot of the stuff that, a lot of the, I guess you say, the athletes have to deal with bullying and trolls online. So this is going to be a great opportunity for us to get on there and talk to true fans that want to know about the game.
Great. Yeah. And that comes out that debuts on Saturday, September 30th, right?
Exactly. And I'm looking forward to it. A good opportunity. I think a lot of fans are looking forward to it. And I'm definitely looking forward to it to kind of give my input on a lot of stuff and see what the fans want, anything they want to know or a question they want to know about the game. I'm looking forward to that. And, and a lot of time when you get on these social networks and stuff, people say mean things or say stuff that sometimes you just have to ignore. But I think what FanCom is doing is pretty cool. And I can't wait to see what happened on Saturday.
Yeah, man. Speaking of, fans and interacting and trolling and everything like that, I deal with a lot of fans on Twitter and running the field goals and Seahawks and stuff like that. And a lot of the anger is centered at the offensive line play and specifically with the Seahawks because they're so great in so many areas. But people see a lack perhaps of investment in the offensive line in terms of free agency or what they perceive in a lack of a draft. And I think also there's a big situation going on with offensive line play in general from the high school level. Do you see a change from when you were coming up through high school in the 90s and even in the NFL in the 2000s? Do you see a change from the high school level in terms of how much talent is there or how they're being coached at the college level that is, permeating into the NFL?
A little bit. I think, a lot of people are saying it because of the spread offense and all that stuff, but I think it's more of just the opportunity. Everybody want to win now. When I came in the league, it was more about, you had a couple of years to kind of figure out, how to play the game, how to be a professional. So I think with that situation, a lot of teams are, it's all about scoring points. A lot of teams don't want to put their hands in the dirt and run the football. So and teams want to win now. A lot of teams are turning it around pretty quick and winning Super Bowls now. So I think that have a lot to do with it. And I think they feel like you've seen a lot of players that have been playing tight end or playing basketball and was able to go in and play offensive line. So I think that they trying to say, well, we don't have to spend as much on offensive linemen that we can get anybody in there to play. But you're seeing the play of offensive linemen right now that you still need some time. I think it's still, for me, when I started playing, I think it took like 3 years before I kind of figured out how to be a professional offensive lineman. So still, with these young teams that got young offensive linemen, the ones that are doing great are the ones that have linemen that have been playing for year in and year out. So I think it takes a couple of years still if you're constantly going to keep putting guys in and out of your offensive line. If you don't pick up 5 guys and say, okay, we're gonna keep these guys in 2 to 3 or 4 years, that's when you're going to see the improvement in offensive line play.
Yeah, that's interesting because even, it is something that we forget about as time passes maybe, but looking at your career, even being the 6th overall pick and, having a lot, knowing that you had this incredible drive and physical talent, you didn't, in your first 4 years, you made 1 Pro Bowl, which, that's one way to perhaps, look at a person and say, but I mean, after that, starting in your 5th year, a perennial Pro Bowler every year for the rest of your career, all pros. And so we look at the offensive line now, and we've seen the improvement with the Seahawks with Justin Britt now in his 4th year and how he made a big jump in the 4th year. And we see guys like Risadi Yambo, who's in his 2nd year, and Jermaine Afidi, who's in his 2nd year. And these are young guys. So what would you say to fans out there that are watching Risadi Yambo and Jermaine Afidi playing those tackle spots in terms of patience? How much patience should they have with these guys?
You just spoke it, man. I think they're going to take another 2 or 3 years for those guys to kind of figure it out. I think it's great that those guys are getting the reps in games and getting live games. So, you watch the season this year, they started out kind of rough the first game, but now, they kind of getting better. This last game, they was able to get in the end zone and score some punts. So that's a positive for them, and they feel good that they can play and kind of put points on the board. So just hoping that these guys just kind of figure it out. I think that the more they play, the better they're going to get. So you just have to, with the offensive line play, you just have to be patient and root for your guys and stay positive that these guys didn't get picked up because they can't play. They can't play. It's just a matter of them getting the reps and getting the experience of being an offensive lineman.
Yeah. What do you think? How would you describe? A lot of the talk is about Tom Cable, and rather than speak specifically perhaps on Tom Cable, how would you describe the job of an offensive line coach? Because with Tom Cable, if an offensive lineman, if fans see that he is not performing up to a certain standard, regardless of the decisions that John Schneider and Pete Carroll make, a lot of the blame for an offensive lineman giving up a sack or having a poor game is put on Tom Cable. How much responsibility do you think an offensive line coach or Tom Cable should have for the performance of an offensive lineman, and where else does that responsibility fall?
It falls a lot on the offensive line coach because he's with those guys every day. Every position go into their own groups once they come together as a unit. But most, the quarterbacks, the receivers, everybody go into their own group. So you have to put a lot of pressure on the offensive line coach because it's his job to put 5 guys together and make them one unit. But still, again, I think as an offensive lineman, you have to put that pressure on yourself to go out there and compete, because the coach don't go out there and play the game and go out there. You have to work on your techniques and all that stuff. So you still have to put that pressure on yourself. And so if those guys are not doing that, it doesn't matter what kind of offensive line coach you have. But I think to be a great offensive line coach, you have to be great at your job. You have to be hard on those guys and still be positive on those guys. Even if the guys have a bad game, you got to be able to manage all those types of egos and stuff like that. And I take my hat off to all the great offensive linemen offensive line coaches that I had. That it takes a lot to manage all those guys and put one unit out there to play as one.
I mean, do you have how much have you interacted, or do you know Tom Cable, and how would you describe him as a coach in terms of what you've seen or what you know?
I haven't really interacted with Tom, but I just see the things that he's able to do with I guess you would say everybody talk about they're not spending a lot of money on these guys and stuff. So he's taking guys that are just want to be offensive linemen. He take defensive linemen, he take basketball players. So that takes a lot of work. That's saying you can take a guy that haven't played the position and make them a professional lineman. So I take my hat off to that guy, because that definitely take a lot of work. With you take a guy that haven't played offensive lineman. You take George Fant, a guy that have never played offensive lineman, to take this guy and put him in a position where he's playing in a professional game. And this year this guy was coming out to be the starter left tackle again this year. So that's pretty amazing. So I can watch his work. Everybody can frown upon it, but you got to realize that takes a lot of work to take the guys that he have and make those guys even irrelevant once the season is over with.
Yeah, well, and some people like to say, Edgar Martinez can become the hitting coach of the Mariners, and some people can say, well, Walter Jones is the greatest offensive lineman that we ever had and one of the greatest of all time. What's the idea of Walter Jones as an offensive line coach? Does that make sense to you? Is that your job? Can you do that?
I think I could if I was to put the energy into it. I've been asked those questions, and I haven't really, I said, I'm focusing more on my son and my daughter. My daughters, they are seniors in high school, so I'm enjoying watching them, become young adults. And like I had a chance to work with Joe Offense last off season, so I enjoyed that. But I don't know if I'm ready for the all the work that the offensive line and coaches have to do. Players talk about they do a lot of work, but you don't see all the work that's done behind the scenes for the coaches. So right now in my life, I'm not looking forward to that. Maybe a couple of years from now, but right now I definitely don't want to be no coach right now.
All right, exclusive. Maybe a couple years from now. So what do you think? Nobody knows you better than you know you. So what do you think made Walter Jones so great? Like, what was it? Your drive? Was it your work ethic? Was it that you were born with specific genes? A combination? What made Walter Jones so good?
I don't know. I think it's just being consistent. I think for me, when I got in the league, I had some great veteran guys on my team that kind of you could kind of watch and kind of figure out how to be a professional. I had some great offensive linemen that was playing in this league that was pretty good at what they was doing. So it made it
Mhm.
pretty easy. You could watch those guys and say, hey, those are the guys I want. When I first got introduced to football as a freshman in high school. The first tape that I ever got was Anthony Munoz. Anthony Munoz had technician, this technician tape, and
Mhm.
my coach gave this tape to me and told me to watch it every day, and that's what I did every day. I got home from school or anytime I had some free time, I would watch this guy, and that's kind of like where I said, okay, this is what I want to do. And once I got to the league, I had some great guys. You had Jonathan Ogden, you had Tony Baselli, you had who else? Orlando
Orlando
Pace. You had
Pace.
you had Orlando Pace. You had Willie Rofe. So you had some
Mhm.
great left tackles in this league that was setting the standard on how to play this game. So it made it pretty easy. Okay, if I watch those guys, I watch those guys every week, and I said, okay, this guy didn't give up a sack. So that's kind of how I took it. Because as an offensive lineman, there's not a lot of stats that you can kind of say, okay, what make this
Mhm.
guy a great offensive lineman. So for me, I just say, okay, if I'm blocking a guy, I'm taking this guy to the game. This guy's not going to get a sack. This guy's not going to get a assist on a tackle or nothing like that. So I just watch those guys and just kind of figure, okay, this is the way you got to play the game, and this how consistent. So I just tried to be consistent every year that I got on the football field. I'm gonna be better than I was last year. So that's kind of how and you can't take away the athleticism that you had to play the game. You have to
Mhm.
at least, no matter how big you was, if you don't have good feet and stuff like that. And my first love was basketball, so I think that kind of helped me out a lot. Getting introduced to being an offensive tackle. That I had great feet as a big man, so I took advantage of that, and I went out there and played the game at a very high level.
You mentioned stats and the lack of stats that people have, because a lot of people judge players sometimes, especially in this silly fantasy football era that we're living in, on stats, and they don't know necessarily what to believe with offensive linemen other than word of mouth or whatever. But there are stats sometimes when a guy of your caliber, they can put out 9 holding penalties in a career, 23 sacks allowed according to some numbers. What did it feel like to you in a game when you gave up a sack or got called for a penalty? How did that make you feel?
That's the worst. That's the only time your name get called in a game. So anytime you get a holding call or you give up a sack, that's kind of hurting the team. So as a lineman, you don't want to do that. You want to go out there and be 100%. Don't give up anything, because that's the only. If you pancake a guy or you block a guy all game and no
Mhm.
one say anything, but if that guy beat you for a sack, that's going to be the headline the next day. So for as an offensive lineman, that's your number one goal, to block that guy and not let that guy hit the quarterback.
And you're talking about blocking for the quarterback. Russell Wilson and Matt Hasselbeck don't share a lot of traits in common from maybe in terms of how they play the game. Matt Hasselbeck, it would be fun. It was funny maybe to watch him go for some scrambles if he had to, but not common. How would you have liked to block for Russell Wilson? Is that more difficult for your job as an offensive lineman? Is it easier because he is one of the best in the league?
I don't know. I think it's more of what you do as an offensive lineman. I think Russell do what he do because he got great legs and can run. But I think any quarterback, if you protect that quarterback, you want to stay in the pocket. So, if he's running around, that means I'm not doing my job. So I think it's a
Mhm.
situation where if I'm doing my job, he's going to stand there in the pocket and make plays. Most of the time when he's running because someone that gave up a leak and a guy's back there in his face. So for me, I would just say if I can keep him without running, he's going to be just like any other quarterback. He's going to be able to stand back there and make plays. And if you give him that time to do that, he can be a one of the great quarterbacks. So I don't look at it as, oh, if I was blocking for Russell. I think it's more if I can protect for Matt Hasselbeck, I can protect for Russell, because if you
Mhm.
give him the time or do your job, he can sit back there and throw from the pocket.
The Seahawks making a change last week, going from Mark Lewinsky to Ode Ibushi, and I think one of the interesting things about any change in the offensive line and the starting offensive line comes down to the amount of preparation and reps that coaches have to go through and with from training camp and, before that with mini camps, but through training camp and preseason and everything. How difficult of a decision is it for a coach to make a change like that? Because I think a lot of fans want to sit there and say, why aren't we seeing Ethan Posick? Why aren't we seeing, somebody else, Matt Tobin, something like that? If they're seeing a struggle in one place, how difficult is it to make those changes when for the last 2 months they've only been getting reps with, well, these are our ones and these are our twos? How difficult is that change?
That's difficult, you know what I'm saying? Because you're trying to find at that point, you look at the game and you see guys struggling and stuff, and you kind of can kind of pinpoint, in that point you're trying to say, okay, this guy's struggling, he's having it hard, so and those two guys was like neck and neck, and who's going to get the starting job. So it's almost a situation where, okay, if you go out there and don't play, and I think at this moment, it's you got to, like, every team, I think, go through the first 4 games and kind of figure out, okay, what kind of team we're going to be, what we good at. So right now they're still trying to figure it out. So they got one more game to kind of figure out how what are they good plays and what they like to run. So I think it was a great move to kind of, and the team kind of move a little better this year. They started out a little slow in this last game, but the second half they kind of got things rolling, and the running back was finding creases and stuff like that. And you never know if it was because they changed that, but the offensive line looked pretty good in that second half. So you just
Yeah.
hopefully that they can to take that last game and hopefully they can put something together this weekend.
I also want to know, because this year you're a first ballot Hall of Famer. This year, Steve Hutchinson got his first time getting nominated for the Hall of Fame in his first year of eligibility. What was it like playing next to Steve Hutchinson? Did you ever experience anything like that in your career? How much did it change your job to have that guard there?
Hey, it made my job easy, man. I think it was a situation where the Seahawks brought a guy in that was that loved the game of football and wanted to compete at a very high level. So, me and him going out there, we wanted to do the best, and it made it easy. We got to a point where we could go to the line of scrimmage, and we didn't have to talk or do anything. It was an easy transition, man, and I enjoyed the time I played with Steve. And he played, like I said, he knew how to play the position, and he played it at. He was a great professional. So I'm happy for him to be in the mix this year for getting in the Hall of Fame, and hopefully that he's a first ballot, and I'd be glad to welcome him home.
Who are your favorite offensive linemen to watch today in the NFL? Current offensive linemen, which are the ones that you think are doing it the best?
Oh my God, I don't know. I like the tackle from Philly. I like the. I can't think of Peterson. I like
Jason
Peterson. I like
Peters.
Jason Peters. I like the tackle from Oakland, Penn. I like his
Tom
game.
Penn, yeah.
Yeah, I like his game. It's a couple of guys, man. I like he's hurt now. I like I think the tackle from Green Bay, Bablaga, I think it is his name.
Brian
I like his
Bulaga.
game. He's hurt now, but I like his game. So it's not, I just been watching, and just, like I say, a lot of talk has been on the offensive line play and how these guys are playing. So it's just a matter of just putting that fire out, and I think it takes a while for offensive line to kind of figure out what kind of unit they're going to be. So you just got to be patient and let these guys, figure it out.
Do you know anything about these Pro Football Focus grades? Have you heard through the grapevine how like offensive linemen are being graded, and how do you see that when someone says this offensive lineman got a poor grade for this week?
I've been seeing it. I've been seeing it on, like, I think they do it like on Sunday Night Football and stuff. I
Yeah.
really haven't paid it no mind. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody, when you're doing that stuff, it's very hard to grade an offensive line. Like I say, it's so hard because there's nothing you can really say a pinpoint. Because every team, every offensive line coach teach it different or how to block somebody. So you can never say, oh well, he's not good because he's blocking this way or he's doing that. So you just have to kind of watch the game and kind of look at stats and see how this guy go out and defend the guy or keep a guy from getting in the stat book. So that's the way I would look at guys. If you go out there and you block a perennial Pro Bowler defensive end and keep this guy out of the stat book, I think that's a great stat to have. Hey, when that guy look at his stat sheet on that night, it's 0.
It looks like we may have lost Walter for a moment here. See if we can get him back. But if not, see if Walter Jones may have lost his connection there for a second. Walter, it dropped out. We'll see if he comes back. It looks like we got him back for a second. This is me picking it up on Seaside Chats. It looks like he's back here. Hey, how's it going?
Sorry about that.
Oh, you're fine. Yeah, as far as offensive line or the job that the Seahawks are doing, and we may have lost Walter again real quick here, so we'll let him get situated again. Walter Jones sitting in with Seaside Chats. He'll be back in just 1 second. I hope everyone's enjoying the show. Okay, so it's Thursday. Oh. Can you hear me? Oh, he's still figuring it out. To the several viewers out there sticking it out.
Hello?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're fine. It happens. It's totally fine. In terms of the Seahawks and offensive line and offense, how do you you blocked for an MVP? You blocked for one of the greatest running backs of the early 2000s, if not up there with anyone in the early 2000s. And from 2010, just after your career came to an end, Marshawn Lynch's career in the Seattle Seahawks, and that took over in a way and became the focus of having one of the greatest running backs again in Seattle. And now these last couple of years, the run game has really struggled, which is Pete Carroll's bread and butter is the run game. That we're seeing some interesting things from Chris Carson, but how much different is an offense going to be, especially for the Seahawks, if they can't get that run game going?
That's going to be difficult, but I think if they, you still, no matter how much you don't think is running, just need a little bit, because we have some veteran receivers out there that can make plays and you get the ball to them. So, we just got to, be patient. We always got interchangeable pieces going in every year with this unit. So, you hate to see that, okay, they start slow every year, but that's kind of how it goes. You start a new year every year and it takes a while, and if this unit get going, if Russell get going, this team can be special. As long as we got Russell in the backfield and doing what he can do, he's healthy, he's feeling good. I think they're going to figure it out. It's just a matter of time. It's almost like they're making adjustments all the time. So they just still trying to feel out what kind of team they got. So we're just going to be patient. You get a win this weekend and you feel good. And you constantly just keep pushing along.
You never played for Pete Carroll, and you never even played for Jim Mora as a head coach. You were there when Jim Mora was an assistant. But how would you have liked to play in Pete Carroll's Seahawks in terms of the way that he runs things?
I would have loved it, man. He came here and he won a Super Bowl. So for me, that would have been awesome, man. I think the way that he have that compete every day, as players, all you want to do is compete and try to be the best at what you do. So I think with that, that made it awesome. You go out to practice. It's a lot different than the way Coach Holmgren ran practice and stuff. He kind of made it have the music blaring and stuff like that. Kind of made it like chaos and kind of prepare you for the game. You go out to the game and people are cheering and there's music and stuff like that. So he kind of brought that to the practice thing, and I thought that was pretty cool to kind of help. You kind of relate to the younger generation. Competing and being in front of crowds at all times, even at practice. That kind of prepare you. So when you get to the game on Sunday, nothing shocked you. So I think that's a great thing that he brought to the Seahawks.
Yeah, and a few more things. What's your opinion of the zone blocking system and the zone blocking scheme and how it works for the Seattle Seahawks and around the NFL? Do you see it being something that's, if if the offense isn't working, as it hasn't really consistently, and the big thing is just hasn't been consistent the last 2 years, too many games where they are not scoring a touchdown. Do you see any changes that need to be made in terms of the blocking or the way they need to block?
I don't think so. I think it's just a matter of, just a time. The zone blocker is great because most of the time those guys are everybody stepping in the same direction and trying to protect each other back. So I think I like the zone blocking. I think it's more just like you said, we'd have lost a great running back in Marshawn Lynch. We still trying to find that guy that understands the offense. And, a lot of times if you go back and watch Marshawn did a lot of stuff that kind of hid the offensive bad play, so offensive line bad play. So until you find a guy that can go out there and understand that, I think Carson is the guy that can go out there. Rawls did that too, but Rawls, he hasn't been able to stay healthy. So we hoping that, Rawls can kind of get himself back feeling great and come out there because he really was playing pretty good football. So
Yeah.
And with the addition of Carson, you hoping that I can't think of the other running back from Green Bay. I can't think of his
Eddie
name right now,
Lacy.
but Eddie Lacy, if this guy can come in and do what they looking at his size and think he can be the ground and pound. So, you keep rotating those guys in. Sooner or later, you got to get those guys. I think as running backs, you got to get those guys touches and kind of get a feel for the game. So I'm thinking last week they went with Carson, so he got more touches. So it's just a matter of trying to figure out how you're going to play the game and let those guys kind of fill out those offensive linemen, and hopefully, they can figure it out.
You did play with one member of the Seattle Seahawks who is still a member of the Seattle Seahawks, John Ryan. Obviously, special teams is different than offense or defense, but John Ryan is the most active punter in the NFL this year, 21 punts, the most in the league. Here he is he's been here almost over basically a decade now. Thoughts on the Seahawks special teams from what you've seen and how John Ryan and the special teams units are doing?
Hey, John Ryan understands his job, man. I think he understands we got a great defense. So his job is to put the ball down as far as he can. He does a great job of that. So, he's perfect for what Pete want him to do, and he plays into the defense. And I think Lockett is destined to break one. You know what I'm saying? It's sooner or later it's going to happen. I think he's still trying to fill out himself as, he's coming back from his injury. So, it's still going to take him a while. You out there, he's moving around, but still, again, you still say, okay, he's destined to break one. So hopefully this Sunday night he'll be able to do that and can spark this team.
And just in terms of the whole outlook of the season, we're 3 weeks in. You've seen the Seahawks. You've seen the rest of the NFC. We know what's sort of going on a little bit. We'll see. We're just about to hit the quarter mark. How do you feel about the Seahawks through 3 games? Because as you said, it'll take some time to gel, and they should only get better as the year goes on, as long as they can avoid injuries. And the injuries have been an issue. What's your outlook right now in terms of how they can get better, and will they get better, and where do you think that'll place them?
I don't know. I feel good because they have a outstanding defense. Last week they put up how many? 20-some points. So if the offense can do that, 14 to 20 points a game, I'm thinking that they're going to be in most of all the games with the way the defense will play. So, I think they just keep striving to do that. They got to put points on the board. I think they can't go into games where you don't score. I think for the defense, you need to go out there and put points on the board, and you have to lean on the defense. That's where all your star power is at, on defense. So you definitely have to lean on them. I think that they're ready for that challenge, and and still, again, it's their division to lose. The Rams are playing some good football, but still, again, they was playing good football last year. So it just a matter, can they maintain that? This team is definitely hey, if they can they know that right now going into October and November, this is where you get your wins at. So you get your wins to kind of stack yourself getting ready to the preseason, getting into the playoff. And, they know last year that they was one game away from getting a home game. So they definitely got to go out there and stack some wins up now and kind of start, putting some games together. So hopefully, I feel good. Like I said, we got Russell, we got Doug Ball, we got some great guys on offense. It doesn't matter if this offensive line come together and put some wins together, and I feel good about that.
Final question, if you played for 12 years, the prime years for the Seahawks with Mike Holmgren being 99 to 2005 was, a lot of playoff appearances and, 2005, the Super Bowl. If you could have one player from the current Seattle Seahawks to add out to your team from those prime early 2000 years, who would be the player that you'd put on that team?
Michael Bennett.
Oh, interesting.
I would love to see Michael Bennett. Who else? I would love to see Lofa Tatupu. Lofa Tatupu. I'd like to see Bobby Wagner and Leroy Hill in the linebackers. I'll take all of them, man. I don't know. I don't know, man. Offensively, I think we had a pretty good unit. That'll be hard, but I think when we was playing at our high peak to have Michael Bennett, coming off that in there causing havoc, I think it would have been pretty awesome to see that.
Definitely. Walter Jones, the greatest tackle of all time. Thanks for joining the show. Say again, FanCom, tell people again where they can find FanCom and anything else that you want to plug or check out, charity, anything like that.
Yeah, man, FanCom is something that, they're going to start on Saturday. It's going to be open. So for fans to be able to talk to athletes, proven professionals that can give you insight on the game and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to it to see what happens. And I'm working on my new apparel now, man. It's called the B2 EDI. It stands for the best to ever do it. So if you want to rock the same shirt that I'm rocking, man, you can go to this website b2edi.com. and pick up stuff. It stands for the best to ever do it. We've been talking about it all day, so it kind of like falls right into it. So, and the reason why I'm doing it because I want people to wear it and feel inspired about being the best, whatever you're doing. You know what I'm saying? If you work, in a restaurant or you do this or do that, you want to be the best to do it. So this is why I'm starting this now because I want to inspire people to be the best at what they do.
Definitely. And that's why, I'm interested in stuff like how you became so good and what inspired you to do that, to be the best to ever do it.
Exactly.
We'll keep, be happy to tell more people about best to ever do it. FanCom. Walter Jones, thanks so much for joining Seaside Chats today.
All right. Thanks a lot, man. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.